Imagine a world where the 1800s didn't just have steam engines and horse-drawn carriages. Imagine cities powered by wireless atmospheric energy and ships that defied gravity long before the Wright brothers were even born. Then imagine it all vanishing, not because it failed, but because it was erased. We're told the 19th century was a time of primitive struggle, yet the blueprints left behind suggest a global civilization far more advanced than our own. What if I told you the history books in your hand are actually a curated list of approved memories? Behind the soot and grime of the Industrial Revolution lies a graveyard of forbidden inventions that could have changed everything. Inventions that were burned, inventors who were silenced, and a timeline that was surgically altered by those who control the present. Buckle up. We're going back to the century of secrets. Number 1. The Wardenclyffe Ghost and the Grid That Could Have Been. 1901. Shoreham, New York. A massive 187-foot mushroom-shaped tower begins to rise toward the sky. The locals think it's just another radio mast, but Nikola Tesla is building something far more dangerous to the status quo. He isn't just trying to send messages across the Atlantic, he's trying to pull electricity straight out of the very air you breathe. Imagine a world where you never saw a utility bill. No power lines crisscrossing our streets, no coal plants choking our lungs, just pure wireless energy for everyone on Earth. Tesla called it world system. The bankers called it a financial nightmare. J.P. Morgan, the man funding the project, asked a single chilling question. If anyone can draw power, where do we put the meter? Within months, the funding vanished. Tesla was labeled a madman, his laboratory was raided, and the Wardenclyffe Tower was dynamited into scrap metal. History says it was a failed experiment, but why did the government seize his papers the moment he died? They didn't just kill the project, they killed the idea of a free world. Think about it. While we were being taught to rely on oil and gas, the blueprints for global wireless power were being fed into a shredder. We were handed a leash and we were told it was progress. But the tower wasn't the only ghost in the machine of the 1800s. Wait until you see what they did to the man who realized the sky wasn't the limit, it was the engine. Number 2, the Mercury engines of the sky. While Tesla was pulling power from the air, others were focused on how to move through it without wings. In the mid-1800s, patents began appearing for craft that didn't rely on steam or propellers. They relied on something far more ancient, Mercury vortex engines. Official history tells us that flight began at Kitty Hawk in 1903, with a rickety wooden glider and a prayer. But hidden in the archives of the 19th century are sketches of ether ships designed to manipulate gravity itself. The concept was simple, yet terrifying to those in power. By spinning liquid mercury at high speeds in a pressurized environment, these inventors claimed to create a repulsion field. Basically, they were building UFOs while the rest of the world was still learning how to build a better horseshoe. So why aren't we commuting in flying discs today? Because mercury is toxic, and so was the competition. The burgeoning railroad and oil tycoons realized that if someone could fly from London to New York in a silent, fuel-less craft, their empires would crumble overnight. Suddenly, workshops caught fire. Blueprints were lost in transit. Inventors like John Keely, who claimed to have discovered sympathetic vibratory physics, were dragged through the courts and branded as frauds. They didn't just suppress the tech, they turned the very idea of anti-gravity into a punchline. But here's the kicker. Modern declassified documents show the military is still experimenting with the exact same mercury plasma tech today. They didn't fail to invent it in the 1800s. They just decided it was too good for us to own. And if you think a flying ship is wild, wait until you see the 19th century internet that was physically scrubbed from the streets. Number 3, the pneumatic pulse, the internet of iron. Imagine a city where information and physical goods moved at the speed of sound right beneath your feet. Before we had fiber optics or Amazon Prime, the 1800s had the pneumatic tube network. In cities like New York, London, and Paris, miles of pressurized iron pipes formed a subterranean nervous system. You could drop a letter, a meal, or even a small package into a canister, and whoosh, it was across the city in minutes. It was the birth of the instant age, over a century before the first email was ever sent. But it wasn't just for mail. In 1870, Alfred Ely Beach built a secret, full-scale pneumatic subway under Broadway in just 58 days. It was silent, clean, and used air pressure to propel a luxurious car through a tunnel. No soot, no horses, no big oil. But the politicians and the transit tycoons had a different plan for the future. Beach's permit was blocked. The tunnel was mysteriously sealed off and forgotten for decades. Why? Because a public transportation system that didn't require expensive fuel or massive maintenance was a threat to the pay-to-play model of the industrial titans. They wanted us on coal-burning trains and eventually gas-choking buses. The pneumatic networks were systematically dismantled and paved over, buried like a secret that was never meant to be told. Today, we wait days for a package or sit in gridlocked traffic while the ghosts of a faster, cleaner world rot under our sidewalks. They replaced a pulse with a pollution and told us it was the only way to grow. But the most dangerous technology wasn't under the ground. It was in the walls of the impossible buildings that shouldn't exist. Number 4, the geopolymer secret of the grand exhibitions. Have you ever looked at the grand neoclassical architecture of the 1800s and wondered how? We're told that horse-drawn carriages and men in top hats built massive marble-like structures across the globe in record time. Cities like Chicago, St. Louis, and San Francisco suddenly hosted world's fairs filled with impossible buildings that looked like they belonged in ancient Rome. Official history says these were temporary structures made of wood and plaster, but the blueprints suggest something else entirely: geopolymers. This was the lost concrete of the 19th century, a technology that allowed builders to grow stone-like structures overnight. By mixing minerals and an organic binder, they could pour walls that were harder than granite and looked like polished marble. But if this technology existed, why do we still build with fragile drywall and expensive steel today? Because the grand exhibitions ended with a match. Almost every single one of these spectacular cities burned to the ground shortly after the fairs closed. They called it an accident. I call it a cleanup. By burning the evidence, the industrial monopolies ensured we would stay dependent on their high-cost construction materials. If everyone could pour their own palace for pennies, the real estate market would have died in its infancy. They demolished the future of housing and replaced it with a mortgage. They wanted us to believe that building something magnificent takes a lifetime when our ancestors were doing it in months. But even a stone palace is just a shell without a heartbeat. Wait until you see the biological machines they tried to breed in the basement of the 19th century. Number 5, the chronophonic camera, photography before light. We are taught that the first photographs were blurry, static images that took minutes of agonizing stillness to capture. But in the hidden laboratories of the 1880s, a different kind of vision was being developed. Enter the chronophonic camera, a device rumored to capture not just light, but the echoes of time. While mainstream scientists like Louis Daguerre were perfecting the portrait, rogue inventors were experimenting with the idea that sound and light leave a permanent resonance in the environment. They believed that with the right frequency, you could tune a lens to see backward. If this sounds like science fiction, consider the case of several inventors whose entire estates were seized by the patent offices under national security protocols in the 1890s. Why would a camera be a threat to national security before the airplane was even invented? Because if you can see the past, you can see the truth. You could see how empires were actually built, who started the fires, and exactly what was being loaded into those temporary buildings we already discussed in Part 4. History is a narrative written by the victors, and a technology that allows the common man to check the receipts is the ultimate weapon. By 1900, the research vanished. The glass plates were smashed, and the inventors were either institutionalized or reassigned to mundane tasks. They didn't want us to have a window into the past. They wanted us to have a television that told us what to believe about the present. But there was one invention even more intimate and more terrifying than a camera that sees through time. A technology that didn't just look at the world, but actually fixed the human mind, and then was banned because it worked too well. Number 6. The Vegas harmonic, the cure they couldn't monetize. In the late 1800s, hospitals weren't just places for surgery. They were the front lines of a forgotten war over the human body. While the pharmaceutical industry was busy bottling snake oil, a handful of doctors were experimenting with bioresonance therapy. They discovered that the human body isn't just a bag of chemicals, it's an electrical circuit. Using precise sound frequencies and low voltage currents, they claimed they could tune the nervous system to heal itself. No pills, no expensive prescriptions, just a specialized chair and a tuning fork. They called it the Vegas harmonic. It reportedly cured everything from chronic pain to deep-seated trauma by simply resetting the body's natural frequency. But as the 1800s drew to a close, the Rockefeller-funded medical schools began a systematic purge. They labeled these practitioners quacks and electric charlatans. State laws were rewritten overnight to make bioelectrical healing illegal without a standard medical license, a license that only taught the use of patented drugs. Think about the irony. We were steered away from a technology that cost almost nothing and had zero side effects toward a system where you are a customer for life. They didn't ban it because it was fake. They banned it because it was efficient. If you can heal yourself with a frequency, you don't need a pharmacy. The devices were confiscated, the research papers were burned, and the Vegas harmonic was relegated to the dustbin of pseudoscience. But the final banned technology isn't just about health or transport. It's the one that explains why all these other inventions had to disappear. It's the key to the Great Reset of the 1800s. Number 7. The atmospheric harvest, the silent siphons. We've seen the wireless power, the flying ships, and the healed bodies. But there is one final piece to the puzzle that connects every single mystery of the 1800s. Look at the old cathedrals, the Capitol buildings, and the ancient town halls built across the globe. Notice the massive spires, the intricate copper domes, and those strange needle-like antennas on the roof. We are told they are ornamental or religious symbols, but according to suppressed research into atmospheric energy harvesting, those buildings weren't just for prayer. They were the gas stations of the 19th century. These structures were designed to siphon static electricity directly from the ionosphere, channeling it into the red brick foundations of the cities. This is why old-world cities always seem to have the same architecture, from Russia to America to Australia. It was a global decentralized power grid that cost nothing to maintain. But then the Great Reset happened. Between 1850 and 1910, the world was systematically rewired. The copper was stripped, the antennas were replaced with crosses, and the history books were rewritten to make us believe we were primitive. They gave us a light bulb and a bill, while they hid the fact that the very air we breathe is a battery. The technology wasn't lost, it was stolen. We are living in the ruins of a high-tech civilization, walking past forbidden power plants every day and calling them historical landmarks. The 1800s didn't end with progress, it ended with a heist. And the biggest prize of that heist? Your future. What do you think? Was the 19th century a steampunk reality, or a carefully crafted lie? Let me know in the comments. That's all for today. Hit that subscribe button if you're ready to stop looking at history through the lens they gave you.